Research is hard, but your tools should not be. Subthesis.com is the free alternative to expensive software. Whether you need to calculate Cronbach's alpha or organize your field notes, Subthesis has a tool for it. No paywalls and no registration required. Check the link in the description and let's dive into today's lesson. Welcome to the final lecture of Module 2. We've covered planning fundamentals. Now we address the uncomfortable truth that plans rarely survive contact with reality. Risk management is how we prepare for what might go wrong before it goes wrong. Every project faces uncertainty. Things will go wrong. The question is whether you'll be prepared. Unfortunately, most risk registers are compliance exercises. They're created to check a box, then filed away and forgotten. Risks are identified but not actively managed. When disaster strikes, people scramble to respond. Postmortems reveal that the risk was actually documented, it just wasn't managed. Today, we'll learn how to create risk registers that actually prevent disasters. First, let's clarify terminology. A risk is something that might happen in the future. It has probability less than 100%. An issue is something that has already happened. It's certain because it's real. Risks are managed proactively. You plan for them before they occur. Issues are resolved reactively. You deal with them after they happen. The goal of risk management is to turn fewer risks into issues, and when risks do materialize, to have responses ready. The first step in risk management is identification. You can't manage risks you haven't identified. Let's explore techniques for finding the risks lurking in your project. Brainstorming is the most common identification technique. Gather your team and ask, what could go wrong? Include diverse perspectives. Developers see different risks than testers. Vendors see different risks than employees. During brainstorming, suspend judgment. Capture every idea without evaluating it. You'll assess probability and impact later. Build on each other's ideas. One person's risk often triggers another person to think of a related risk. Every project is built on assumptions. You assume the vendor will deliver on time. You assume key personnel will remain available. You assume the technology will work as advertised. Assumption analysis examines each assumption and asks, what if this is wrong? Hidden assumptions are particularly dangerous because they're hidden risks. Make assumptions explicit. Document them. Validate them where possible. Turn unvalidated assumptions into identified risks. History is an excellent teacher. Review what went wrong on similar projects in your organization. Check lessons learned databases if they exist. Look at industry common risks. What typically goes wrong in projects like yours? Regulatory projects face compliance risks. Technology projects face integration risks. Construction projects face weather and permit risks. Past is prologue. If something has gone wrong before, it can go wrong again. Don't assume you're immune to problems that plagued others. Checklists organize risk identification around standard categories. Technical risks relate to technology performance, complexity, or maturity. Schedule risks relate to timeline pressures and dependencies. Cost risks relate to budget accuracy and funding stability. Resource risks relate to availability and capability of team members. External risks come from outside the project, like regulatory changes or market shifts. Walking through these categories systematically prevents blind spots. Once risks are identified, you need to assess them. Not all risks are equal. Some need immediate attention. Others can be monitored. Assessment helps you prioritize. The two dimensions of risk assessment are probability and impact. Probability asks, how likely is this risk to occur? Is it a 10% chance or a 90% chance? Impact asks, if the risk occurs, how bad is it? A minor inconvenience or a project-ending disaster? Use consistent scales across all risks. A 1-5 scale or percentage ranges work well. Combine probability and impact for a risk score. Probability times impact gives you a number that enables prioritization. The probability impact matrix is a visual tool for risk prioritization. Plot probability on one axis and impact on the other. Place each risk on the grid based on its assessment. Risks in the high probability, high impact corner are your top priorities. They're likely to happen and will cause significant damage. Risks in the low probability, low impact corner just need monitoring. They're unlikely and wouldn't hurt much anyway. The matrix makes prioritization visible and intuitive. Risk assessment can be qualitative or quantitative. Qualitative assessment uses ratings like high, medium, and low. It's faster and simpler, good enough for most projects. Quantitative assessment assigns specific dollar values to impacts and precise percentages to probabilities. You can calculate expected monetary value, probability times impact. Quantitative is more precise but requires more data and analysis time. Use qualitative for routine risk management. Use quantitative for major investments or highly uncertain projects where precision matters. Identification and assessment are just preparation. Response is where risk management delivers value. Let's explore the 4 standard response strategies. Avoidance eliminates the risk entirely by changing plans. If a vendor is risky, choose a different vendor. If a technology is unproven, choose a proven alternative. If a timeline is aggressive, extend it. Avoidance is the most effective strategy when available. The risk simply doesn't exist anymore. But avoidance isn't always possible. Some risks are inherent to the project. You can't avoid market risk on a product launch. You can't avoid integration risk when integrating systems. When you can avoid, do. When you can't, use other strategies. Mitigation reduces the probability that a risk will occur or the impact if it does occur. Mitigation actions are taken before the risk happens. Adding buffer time mitigates schedule risk. Conducting early testing mitigates quality risk. Cross-training team members mitigates key person risk. Mitigation is the most common response strategy. Most risks can't be avoided but can be reduced. The goal isn't to eliminate the risk but to bring it to an acceptable level. Transfer shifts the risk to another party. Insurance is the classic example. You pay a premium and the insurance company takes on the financial risk. Fixed price contracts transfer cost overrun risk to vendors. Performance guarantees transfer delivery risk to suppliers. Transfer has a cost, insurance premiums, higher vendor prices to cover their risk, and transfer doesn't make the risk disappear. It just moves to someone else. If the vendor fails to deliver, you still have a problem even if they're contractually liable. Acceptance means acknowledging the risk without taking action to change it. Active acceptance prepares a contingency plan. If the risk occurs, you know what you'll do. The plan is ready to execute. Passive acceptance means you'll deal with it if it happens. No specific plan, just awareness. Acceptance is appropriate for low priority risks where the cost of other strategies exceeds the expected impact. You can't respond to every possible risk. Some you simply accept and move on. The risk register is your central document for tracking all project risks. For each risk, it captures the description, the probability and impact ratings, and the resulting risk score. It documents the response strategy and specific actions planned. And critically, it names an owner who is accountable for managing that risk. Without ownership, risks become orphans that no one manages. The register is a living document. Review and update it regularly. Add new risks as they're identified. Close risks that no longer apply. Risk management is ongoing, not one time. Review the register regularly, at least weekly for high priority risks. Update probability and impact as you learn more. A risk that seemed unlikely might become more likely as conditions change. Track triggers and early warning signs. What would indicate that a risk is about to materialize? When triggers activate, escalate your response. When a risk actually materializes, convert it to an issue and execute your response plan or create one if you accept it passively. Here's how to make risk management real rather than a paper exercise. Discuss risks in every status meeting, even briefly. What are the top 3 risks right now? Has anything changed? Assign actual budget and time for response actions. If mitigation requires testing, schedule the testing. Don't just write it down. Celebrate when mitigation prevents problems. When a risk doesn't materialize because of your actions, acknowledge that success and learn from risks that become issues. Every materialized risk is a lesson. What could you have done differently? Watch out for common mistakes. Identifying risks without assigning owners leaves risks unmanaged. Someone must be accountable. Creating the register and never updating it makes risk management theater. If the register is stale, it's useless. Ignoring low probability, high impact risks can be devastating. A 5% chance of project cancellation needs attention. Conflating risks and issues causes confusion. Risks are managed differently than issues. Keep them separate. Let's practice. Think of a current or upcoming project. Identify one risk in each of three categories. One technical risk. What could go wrong with the technology? One schedule risk. What could delay the timeline? One resource risk. What could affect your team? For each risk, consider your response. Would you avoid, mitigate, transfer, or accept? This quick exercise builds the habit of systematic risk thinking. Let's summarize Module 2's final lecture. Identify risks through brainstorming, assumption analysis, historical review, and checklists. Assess each risk's probability and impact to prioritize your attention. Choose an appropriate response strategy for each significant risk, and manage risks actively with assigned owners and regular review. A living risk register prevents disasters. A dusty one doesn't. We've completed Module 2. Planning that survives first contact. In Module 3, we move into execution and control. Lecture 9 tackles one of the most common complaints in organizations, meetings that waste time. I'll show you how to run meetings that actually accomplish something. Thank you for completing the planning module. You now have the tools to break down work, estimate realistically, schedule effectively, and manage risk proactively. In Module 3, we put these plans into action. I'll see you in the next lecture. Research is hard, but your tools should not be. Subthesis.com is the free alternative to expensive software. Whether you need to calculate Chromebox Alpha or organize your field notes, Subthesis has a tool for it. No paywalls and no registration required. Check the link in the description and let's dive into today's lesson.